We will wait for 5 more minutes. Two more minutes. Well, let's start now because it's 3 o'clock for me. So this week's lesson is about bees. Yay. This week, we will be focusing on bees. We will talk about how they work and other facts. And at the end, there will be a Kahoot. So there will be 7 sections. In the hive, making honey, the disappearing honeybees, when the queen dies, wasps and hornets, worker bee life cycle, and conclusion. Let's start. So section 1 is in the hive, and as you can see here, it's bees in their hive. They're getting in, and it's a lot of bees. That bee is gonna fall. In the hive, there are 3 types of bees: worker bees, drone bees, and a queen bee. We will learn about them in detail. So here are some pictures of them. So this right here is the worker bee. It's a worker bee, not the worker bee. There are actually a lot of them. And yeah. And they're the ones who collect all the nectar and pollen. This one is the drone bee. So yeah, it does not have a stinger. And this is the queen bee right in the middle. And the pink thing is something the farmer attached to it. Workers. Worker bees are all females. The queen has put a chemical on them so that they cannot give birth. They start as nurse bees. Drones. Drone bees are all males. Their job is to mate with the queen. Unlike the queen and the workers, drones don't have stingers. The queen. For every hive, there is only one queen. The worker bees bring the food to her. The queen is the only one that can give birth to fertilized eggs. So the worker bees bring food to her, and that might sound lazy, but she plays an important role too, because she's the only one who lays eggs, and she has to take care of every bee in the colony. There's only one queen. There are hundreds of drones and 20,000 to 80,000 worker bees. A lot, as I told you guys. So, workers. Worker bees start their lives as nurse bees. They take care of the queen's babies and help the injured. Then they will become workers. They will go collect pollen or nectar and take it back to the hive. Sadly, they don't live for a long time. They only live from 4 to 6 weeks. Drones have to mate with an unfertilized queen, and the queen will pick one to mate with. Drones don't have to collect pollen or nectar, and they don't have stingers. While that may sound good, no stinger means no protection while being alone. Her Majesty is the largest bee in the colony, up to 6 centimeters long. That's already pretty big for a bee. Drones and workers are only about 1 centimeter long. The queen does have a stinger, though. She is the only one who gives birth. Well, worker bees can only lay unfertilized eggs. She's the only one who gives birth to fertilized eggs, because worker bees they never mate. So queens are the only females who mate. The only female. Percentages of the colony. This is what a healthy colony looks like. The queen, since there's only one compared to all the workers and the drones, is less than 1%, a range from 0.001 to 5% to 0.005%. So 85% of a healthy colony are workers, 15% are drones, and less than 1% is the queen, which is just a thin line here. Making honey, section 2. Beekeepers send their bees to collect nectar and come back to the beekeeper. There's also natural honey without beekeepers, but that doesn't usually end up in the store. But the beekeepers are sometimes cruel. Sometimes they replace the honey with a sugar substitute that is worse for the bee's health. The cheap sugar replacer lacks the nutrients, fats, and vitamins that honey has. So right here are some bees in their hive. They're storing honey. After the bees take it back to the hive, the flower nectar is broken down into simple sugars and stored in the honeycomb. The design of the honeycomb and constant fanning of the bees' wings causes evaporation, creating sweet liquid honey. So while this may look disgusting, these squirmy things inside are actually bee larvae. And yeah, so because the queen will lay her eggs inside honeycombs, and these ones that are covered are bee larvae who have already spun cocoon. Beekeepers harvest it by collecting the honeycomb frames and scraping off the wax cap that bees make to seal off honey in each cell. Once the caps are removed, the frames are placed in an extractor, a centrifuge that spins the frames, forcing honey out of the comb. After the honey is extracted, it's strained to remove any remaining wax and other particles. Some beekeepers and bottlers might heat the honey to make this process easier, but that doesn't alter the liquid natural composition. So after straining, it's time to bottle, label, and bring it to you. It doesn't matter if the container is glass or plastic, or if the honey is purchased at the grocery store or farmer's market. If the ingredient label says pure honey, nothing was added from bee to hive to bottle. So, do you know why honeycombs are hexagons? I'll let you think about that for a minute. And you can read this text if you want, but because I'm gonna explain it anyway. Say it to me in the chat if you want to answer this. So although they didn't raise their hand, well, although they didn't in the chat, they raised their hand. So Svenbad, yeah, I'll unmute you. I'll ask you to unmute yourself. Oh, 3 people raised their hand. If she's not gonna unmute you. Okay. So yeah, Svenbad, what do you think? Why do you think they're hexagons? Okay, well then I guess we're just gonna keep going. Actually Galaxy S10. Yeah, let's just keep going. So, here's the answer. It's because circles will leave gaps when put together. Triangles and squares don't leave gaps, but hexagons are the sturdiest and the biggest. But bees have to eat 2 tablespoons of honey just to make 1 ounce of wax. Though bees never learn geometry, they know their shapes well. How do bees gather nectar? The bees use their proboscis to suck the nectar up. They go from flower to flower, so some nectar lands on another flower. This is how most flowers reproduce. Then the bee heads back to the hive. There it will pass the nectar to other bees through their proboscis. This is called trophallaxis. So these are bees doing trophallaxis. Trophallaxis, ants also do trophallaxis when they find food. Also, nectar are usually from female plants. Bees typically go for nectar. Pollen, bees also go for that, but not as much as nectar. Pollen is from male plants. Third section, disappearing honeybees. In the fall of 2006, a beekeeper reported to locals that some of his bees vanished. The only bees left were the queen and some nurse bees. All drones and workers were gone, and the queen was in bad condition. After that, thousands of bees went missing throughout the world. This was called CCD, which stands for Colony Collapse Disorder. They disappeared across the globe. Scientists were determined to find out what was causing this tragedy. First, they thought that it was a simple parasite. This parasite was called the varroa mite. Varroa mites mainly eat and reproduce on bee larvae, although they can also live on bees and eat them. Varroa mites carry numerous diseases, such as ABPV. ABPV stands for acute bee paralysis virus. And acute does not mean like cute. Acute means like sharp or severe. So here's a beehive after CCD, and it once was there were a lot of bees once, but now there are only just a few. But then scientists found out that humans are to blame. Farmers have been doing a new way of farming called monoculture farming. Monoculture farming involved pesticides used on the plants. Then bees trying to pollinate died because of the pesticides. And now people are trying to use less of those pesticides. But what was also causing bees' deaths was that in California, especially in the spring and autumn, almond trees were blooming. Bees needed to be shipped from across the country. The bees were kept in a small container on the way there. The food left in there, a simple sugar food, wasn't healthy for the bees. When they were unloaded off the trucks that carried them, farmers usually found a lot of dead bees, some bees in terrible condition, and only a few healthy bees. Almond trees are, studies show, the plant that needs bee pollination the most. And Albert Einstein once said, "If the bee disappeared off the surface of the globe, then man would only have 4 years of life left. No more bees, no more pollination, no more plants, no more animals, no more man." And I can explain this to you guys because if there were no more bees, of course there would be no more pollination. Plants need pollination, and if there were no pollination, there would be no more plants. And since animals eat the plants and carnivorous animals eat the animals that eat the plants, there would be no more animals. And humans will eat those animals, but there are no more animals and no more plants. So humans will die off too. Section 4. When the queen dies. What would happen if the queen died? Well, this is what would happen. The colony would go wild without knowing what to do. Only for a little, though. The workers will quickly find eggs or larvae less than 3 days old. They will house them in vertically hanging cells and feed them royal jelly. Royal jelly is a substance created by bees to feed to their babies. Some humans buy royal jelly from the store to eat too because it's very nutritious. So these are most likely the baby queens. So So before I read the text, this picture, the ants did not kill the queen. The queen died, and then the ants are coming to pick this queen up and take it to their ant hole. Because ants will literally eat everything. The fertilized eggs will usually take 3 days to hatch. After 6 days of rapid growth, they will pupate in the cells. But here's the sad part. Since there are multiple eggs that hatch, the newly hatched queens have to kill each other. If some queen bees are still in the eggs, the already hatched queens will use their stingers to kill the eggs. Then the already hatched queens will fight each other until only one survives. This is because there can only be one queen in the hive. Sometimes the queen bee goes missing. The worker bees will still do this process. If the old queen returns, the worker bees will either kill her or let her live with a new queen until the old one dies of age. So if this happens, if the workers don't kill her, then there will be 2 queens. But that doesn't happen usually, because usually the workers will just kill the old queen if the old queen come back. Wasps and hornets, section 5. Bees have distant cousins. They are wasps and hornets. Wasps usually have smooth and shiny skin. So this is a wasp right here. They can sting more than once, while normal bees can only sting once. After normal bees sting, they die. So stinging is basically a last resort for normal bees. Both are black and yellow, though bees are fuzzy and wasps aren't. Hornets are usually black and white, though they can also be reddish-brown, or this color in the picture. Hornets are not fuzzy. Hornets can be fatal, though. Fatal means they can kill. Wasps are omnivores, meaning they eat both animals and plants. This is a great help because they get rid of annoying pests. Hornets are insectivores, meaning they eat mostly insects. This is also helpful. Hornets don't typically eat many plants. While this looks like a plant, it's actually a bug. It's a bug that looks like a leaf, and it's most likely a praying mantis. Section 6. Worker bee life cycle. The life cycle of a worker bee is complicated, but it goes like this. Day 1, the queen bee lays an egg in a honeycomb. Day 4, the egg hatches and the larva comes out. The other workers will feed it. Day 10, the larva's pupa stage starts. The workers will cover the comb with wax, and the pupa will spin a cocoon. Day 22, the adult bee will chew through the wax and climb out. Then it will start cleaning the cell. Day 24, the new bee will become a nurse. Day 32, the bee can now produce wax. Day 40, it will spend 3 days protecting the hive from dangers. Day 43 and onwards, the bee will work for the colony by collecting pollen and nectar. So day 43 is about 4 weeks. Yeah. Well, it's about 6 weeks. Which means that it's about 6 weeks, because each week is 7 days, and 7 times 6 is 42, which is 1 less than this. But it's not math class, it's science. Drones go through the same process. Well, at least from day 1 to day 22, which means they stop right here, because they do not become a nurse. The queen also goes through the same process until day 22, where, of course, they will have to kill their competitors. And last section, the conclusion. Bees are not only make honey, but they also make plants reproduce. Bees are busy and diligent all the time, especially worker bees. A bee won't bother you if you don't sting it. If you don't bother it, yeah, okay. I'm gonna say that again because a bee won't sting you if you don't bother it. And you gotta remember that the next time you see a bee lands on you. If it lands on you, stay still. And it takes 1 ounce of honey to fuel a bee's flight around the world. Here are some more fun facts. Bees have to gather nectar from 2 million flowers to make 1 pound of honey. And because workers don't live long, in their whole lifetime, they only make 1/112 teaspoons. 1/12, not 1/112, sorry. Yeah. Teaspoons are very small, so because worker bees, they're small and they do not live long. A bee's brain is oval and small as a sesame seed, but they are very smart. Bees communicate with each other by dancing most of the time. Queen bees can lay up to 2,500 eggs per day. Imagine how tired she would be at the end of the day. Bees have been producing honey for more than 150 million years, which means that bees are definitely been alive for more than that. Bees are the only insect that makes food eaten by humans. One guy found a 2,000-year-old jar of honey and said it tasted delicious. That shows how long honey can stay like that. He found it in an Egyptian tomb. And last fun fact, the buzz made by the bee is made by their wings. Their wings flap 11,400 times per minute, which is a lot. Yeah. That's about how much our heart beats per minute. Maybe less. Yeah. So I hope you learned a lot about bees this time. And I actually really liked making this, but anyway. It just popped into my head. Anyway, here's a little unscramble the words game, but before that, some people raised their hands, so Hannah. Oh, never mind. Okay, Barkestel. Okay. Okay, Barkestel, what is your question?
My question is, what about the eggs? What's the eggs to the ways to a bee?
What?
What the eggs is returned to a bee? How?
Do you mean how an egg will turn into a bee?
Huh?
Do you mean how an egg turns into a bee?
Yeah.
Oh, that's we can just go back to the yeah, so the egg will turn into a bee by becoming a larva and spinning a cocoon. Then when it's 22 days old, it will chew through the wax and climb out, and it will be an adult bee.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Roger's son.
Because I got onto Kahoot, but when I use my computer, the screen on my big TV, it would just stay there and it won't move. I don't know which choice is.
We haven't started the Kahoot yet.
I'm saying when we do.
Oh, I don't know why that happened. Because it's supposed to it's not like if you are playing the Kahoot, it's not supposed to move. But you look on my screen and choose which answer you think it is.
Then I would be tapping both of my screens.
What?
I'd be tapping my TVs and my computer.
Well, then I don't know.
Okay.
And then Svenbad. Well, then if there's no question, I'll just keep going. Galaxy S20. Wow, there's a lot of people who raised their hand. Oh, well then, Hannah.
How do bees know that they are nurses or workers or queens?
Because the queen will tell them, not by talking. Remember, the bees will communicate with each other by dancing. So basically, yeah, the queen will dance to communicate with them, and she will tell them if they're a nurse or bee. Or other worker bees will tell them because they know, because it's the rules of a worker bee. They start as nurse bees and then become workers.
And how do queen bees know that they are queens?
Because the queen, because the workers will tell them when they are grown up, and worker bees know that because they know it because they chose them. So of course they know it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. So, the other learning group. Apparently, there's somebody else named.
I just want to ask you a question. Are we doing Kahoot?
Yeah. Lee. Okay, never mind then. Then I guess I'm just gonna keep going. Let's go. Okay, here's the unscramble the words. Type in the chat. Type in the chat what you think each is. So yeah, send it to me. Private message me. So. We're doing the first one right now, so. Who's spamming? Alright. Whoever keeps spamming, please stop. Okay, so most of you said that number 1 is honey, and you will see the answers later. And then, what's the second one? The worst part of bees and their defending part. Most of you said it's stinger already. Yeah. Third part. What is the name for the bees that live in a hive? So most of you said number 3 is colony. So let's see if you're correct. Let's see the answers. The first one is honey. Good job. Second one, stinger. Good job again. Colony. So if you got all of them correct, good job. Number 2. So what type of bee mates with the queen? And there are hundreds of these bees. Some people say worker, some people say drone. Alright, so question 2. The opposite of this is nectar, which comes from female plants instead of males. A lot of people say pollen. Good job. And then this last one may be very hard because there's a lot of letters. Process of bees passing pollen or nectar to and from. And I'll give you a hint. We talked about it in the making honey section. Bees pass honey by their proboscis, and that process is called. So if nobody knows it, we'll now display the answers. Yeah, the first one is drones. The second one is pollen. And since you guys didn't know the third one, trophallaxis. Yeah, anybody remember that word? Because that's actually what this means. For so work the honeybees, creatures that by a rule in nature teach the act of order to a people's kingdom, by William Shakespeare. So, this basically means people can actually learn from honeybees because there's a queen, of course, and honeybees follow the queen's rule. So yeah, and there are a lot of people who don't follow rules. So what he's saying is that people should follow the rules. They should learn from honeybees. The end. It's Kahoot time, so yay. Alright, let's go to Kahoot. So alright, let's go to Kahoot. So get out Kahoot and go to it.
Okay.
Well, you do Kahoot.it, but I'm gonna do Kahoot.com because I'm the host. So in. All right, my Kahoots and
Philippines.
so yeah, so let's randomize order of questions and answers. So the game pin, no music, okay, just because it's a little noisy. So the game pin is 8297983. Oh yeah, and if you can't do Kahoot, that's fine because Kahoot's optional. If you don't want to do Kahoot, that's fine too. Because Kahoot's just basically to test what you learned today. You don't have to do it. The important thing is you learned. We'll wait for just 1 more minute, okay? So, because I can't wait too long. And also next time when we're doing Kahoot, please do not put emojis in your name because it will be kind of hard to read emojis. Like I know what they mean, just I can't say it, or else I would have to go like face with tears of joy, heart face, yeah, like that. So yeah, let's just start. 12 questions. Question 1. ABPV stands for at best positive value, true or false? This one's pretty obvious. I'll turn this music on. Why did some people still choose true? It was pretty obvious that it's false, because this has nothing to do with bees, so. Andrew is in first place. Wow, most of the top 5 are 8. How many drones are there in a colony? Yeah, there are hundreds of drones. No, so numbers will vary, but usually it's more than 100. And not a million, not one. That's the queen, not drones. And these are worker bees, so. Oh wow. Up 16 places. You is the highest climber. I've actually never seen anybody go 16 places. That's pretty awesome. What does omnivore mean? Yeah, omnivores eat both meat and plants. Most of you got that right. What is the name for the process of bees passing honey to each other? That's tropholysis. Most of you got that right because you might remember it from the unscrambled words. Next. Andrew's still in first place. Oh wow, only one person in the top 5 does not start with A. What plant needs bee pollination the most? Yeah, nobody chose grapes. It's actually almonds. Oh, actually, super spammer. Why'd you choose that? Up 8 places. Super spammer is the highest climber. Why are honeycombs hexagons? There are actually 2 correct answers for this. Yeah, both of these answers are correct. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's hexagon or not. For these it does. Predators will just just the same likely to eat it if it's hexagon. So yeah, hexagons. There's just leather, and while some people might think that that's an opinion, not a fact. Yay, just hit answer streak 3. What will a worker bee do when it has been born for 40 days? It will protect the colony. Good thing people still got that right. So, before I click next, let's go back to the slides. So, yeah, because day 40, it will spend 3 days protecting the hive from dangers. So, yeah. Next. True or false? Queen bees live for 3 years. False. They actually live for 5 years, not 3. Nice. Anthony SCS is back with an answer streak of 3. What is the role of a drone bee? Yeah, their role is to make the queen and not collect nectar. That's what worker bees do. Gilbert has a streak with 9 correct answers in a row. True or false? It takes an ounce of honey to make a bee fly around the world. Yeah, it's true, not false. Leon is making a comeback of 3 in a row. Oh yeah, I forgot his stomach. Why do newly hatched queens have to kill their competitors? can only be one. They might not want to. Some might if they're cruel, but. And yeah. Well, worker bees might have told him to. This might be correct, but. Yeah, there can only be one. So. Nice. Sun is back with an answer streak of 3. Bee honey is replaced with sugar substitute. True or false? And this is the last question. So yeah, it's true. Now let's see who the top 3 are. That angry face. Herbert. Number 1. Number 4, Amethyst, and number 5. Okay, well then, I guess that's the end of the lesson. See ya, bye-bye. I do not know why that is my picture, but... Oh wait, that's not my picture. That's that other learning group. Are you mocking me? Okay, but well then, bye-bye.